I'm going to show you how to go from a basic layout to a finished top-down world using tiling. Tiling is an important technique when creating art for games because it can help you build worlds more quickly. So I challenged everyone to make a top-down world using tiles. For this challenge, we're working in a Game Boy resolution. The tiles must be 16 pixels by 16 pixels and we must include these things. But before I go over your entries, here's how I did mine. I usually start off by brainstorming ideas. And I decided to go with a little Yeti village. We'll have a little pathway, a frozen lake, a shop where an NPC sells some fish, a hidden collectible pickaxe, all surrounded by trees and rocks. Sort of like a top-down Zelda-like adventure game, because that idea is completely original and everything. With the canvas and grid set up, I started off with a basic tile for the path, the tree, the ice, the building, and the rock. Not that rock. Starting off with a basic tile for each thing will allow you to create a rough layout for yourself, which you'll be able to use as a guide. You can make entire worlds out of a basic tile set, but I wanted to make mine more visually interesting, so this is what I did. Looking at the path, I could turn this tile into a corner, or I can thin out the path so it doesn't fill the full grid spaces. And then I can turn this into a little crossroad tile. And now a single path tile has turned into this tile set. Remember that you can flip tiles horizontally and vertically if you need to as well. There's no point drawing something over and over again, just work smart, not hard. The ice is a little bit more complicated because it has a pattern to it. With patterns in advanced tiles, I find it easiest to start from the center and work my way out from there. The smart ones among you might notice that I can't just flip certain tiles as well because the pattern won't match. So these are essential tiles that I'd have to draw in as well. But remember to be careful and keep referring to your guide because you can go absolutely mental thinking of different variations that you might not need. That top right, bottom left corner connecting piece that you spent an hour figuring out might not be essential after all. Not that I'd know anything about that. The trees are interesting. If we put them together in a forest-like grid, it looks pretty bare. A nice tiling technique I found for this is to make a copy of your grid, then just offset it. Now we have a more dense forest. It's easy peasy, tiling trees. Kill me. The building looks quite small. This would work for an overworld type view in a game like Final Fantasy, or as seen here by A286044007, who took part in this challenge too. Awesome work, by the way. But for mine, I wanted to make the building bigger to really show off the NPC and maybe some sort of fish sign because it is a fish shop. So instead of a single 16 pixel tile, I split the building into multiple tiles like this. With this tile system, you can easily create different variations of your building for your world. So now our layout looks a little bit more interesting and we have a nice guide for all of our required tiles. It's time to actually start making the tiles. The actual ones, the ones with stuff, perspective and style and things. I usually work in black and white values first, so I don't have to think about value structure and value contrast and color theory and color harmonies and all these different things at the same time. I tried eyeballing the perspective to start off with and it just kind of looks wrong. It looks like we're viewing these things at different angles. So to counter this, it's helpful to create a guide block and use that as a base for building assets. When I'm designing things, I try to think about the overall world and not just a singular asset because everything has to fit together. I wanted this world to have sort of a soft feel, so all of the shapes in my assets are rounded as opposed to being sharp. I have made a video on shape theory if you want to check that out, but take that advice with a pinch of salt. It's really just a basic guide to get you started and thinking about shapes. Because my design is supposed to be a game mock-up, I try and highlight the most important parts of the scene. I first do this with value contrast. The sign, the pickaxe, the store, they all have dark values, so they contrast nicely against the snowy flow. In comparison, the tree and the path values are lighter and much closer to that of the snow, so they contrast less and don't stand out as much, because they're just not as important for the gameplay. I also added an outline to these interactable or important parts to help them stand out even more. Here's a quick tip for adding snow to an object. First create the base object, then add snow to the top planes where the snow will naturally lie. One important thing to mention with this, by the way, is I never get anything right the first time. It's all a process of experimenting and using the art theory that I know to improve things as I go along. To add colors to this, I first make sure all the assets are separated. Then I add a layer above in color mode, which preserves the black and white values underneath. It's really easy to apply colors this way, and I mess around with this trying to limit my color choices. I went for a sort of yellow and purple complementary scheme to start with, and then just kept tweaking it. I wanted it to be more vibrant and colder feeling, so I pushed the purples towards blue and upped the saturation in some areas. I made sure the palette was shared between assets so I didn't just have random colors going on everywhere. I even gave the black outlines a purple tint to slightly decrease the contrast so they're less harsh to look at. I think the final palette is quite charming and actually achieves what I was going for, so I'm pretty happy with it. So this is my final piece for the challenge. Let me know what you think in the comments. To finish it up, I animated a couple of frames for some of the objects and then added in some falling snowflakes. Make sure you check out my videos on animation if you want to learn how to animate. But wait a minute, before you click off the video, there's more, because you guys also took part in this challenge. Before I show all of them, here's a handful that I picked out to talk about. Everything works together so well in this one, and I can definitely imagine playing a game in this style. We had a similar idea with the blue and orange color palette, but this one uses greens as an accent color to push it just a little bit further. They even created this nice start menu too to go along with it. Awesome work. Check out this awesome 2-player snowball fighting game mock-up. This one is really striking and creative. All of the important aspects like the snowball, the power-ups and the characters all stand out against the background, which is really smart for game art design. The UI elements are a really nice touch too. Awesome work. Thanks so much for taking part. I love this one because it looks uncomfortably cold. In mine I went for blue is cold, but in this one the desaturated colors and the patches of grass that are showing up through the snow make this a relatable but uncomfortable environment. Nice work. This one looks really cohesive, as if it's part of this huge world. I love the forced perspective on the house, and obviously the use of outlines on the characters and interactables is really smart for game art design. This one has really strong vibes going on. Reminds me of a classic NES game or Game Boy Color game or something. I would definitely play this. Thanks so much to everyone for taking part. Unfortunately, I can't feature everyone's submissions, but I at least wanted to show them all in a slideshow now. I really appreciate every single one of you for taking part. And if you're watching this and want to take part in some challenges, then make sure you come and join the Discord and follow me on social media. And if you want to learn more, check out this pixel art playlist. There's some tutorials and challenges in there that you might find interesting. So thanks for watching everyone. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Right, it's pretty cold in here.